Are we live?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's give it a couple of minutes. And then we got to go in and edit this out so we can go right into sponsorship. We'll give everybody. Do you want to let people know that you're live?
I am. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm getting the link right now.
Let me do the same thing.
Hey guys, there's only a few people. I think no, actually, I don't think anyone's here. Like, hey guys, I'm
Yeah,
gonna go on Instagram and be like,
I'm going
and
to
tell.
go and on Telegram and let everybody know that we are here.
If you're not sleeping, come by. I'm going live on YouTube with Bella to talk about the. Oh wait, I'm not even recording.
Well, we're going to live watch and react to Trump and Tucker's speech because did anybody watch the debate? Let me go into the comments. Hi, guys.
Hi.
We're going to do. Want to watch Tucker and kind of give our commentary live on it. We had to make a choice between Tucker and the debate, and we're like, well, nobody's gonna be watching the Dusty debate anyways, because who cares? We can always watch whatever the highlights are of that later. But we do want to watch the Tucker Carlson interview. So just give us a chance, guys, to let everybody know that we are here.
We are here. We are live.
So for those of you guys joining in, we are not going to be going live tomorrow because Linda is out of town.
I'm actually going to be on another podcast tomorrow, and I won't get back home until like midnight. So we won't have a show. It's been really interesting. I've been traveling all day. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, which I think it's like the Afghanistan of America. Uh, um, Let me just tell you guys how ridiculous this city is. First of all, I'm very thankful to be here because they paid for everything for me to come. So I'm not complaining about that. I'm in a beautiful hotel. And yeah, but the Uber took me through some very rough neighborhoods, which I was like, did this city get bombed or something? Like, was there, did something happen in America that I wasn't aware of? The poverty, these rundown cities, super dangerous, I've heard. In fact, the Uber driver,
Cities, like if you drive out more into like the suburbs or whatnot,
yes,
like
yes, of
different.
course, but at the end of the day, it's like this stuff shouldn't be happening in the best, in allegedly the best country in the world, particularly like the way that some of these neighborhoods look, where it literally looks like they dropped a bomb. Um, so that's not cool. And he was telling me like, don't go too far north because it's like a really bad neighborhood and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just interesting. Um, but tomorrow will be in a really cool podcast. I'll post it on Instagram so you guys can go watch. And this was last minute, so I don't expect a big turnout. But yeah.
Did you guys watch already? Did you guys watch some of the debate? What are your thoughts? Prioritize the interview.
Prioritize the interview.
Linda is in Kansas City, Missouri. St. Louis, Missouri. Sorry.
In St. Louis, Missouri. Um,
You like Vivek? How did this? Was DeSantis at the debate?
he was. He was. He was. I saw a few clips on Instagram. I think Vivek was the only candidate that allegedly was like pushing back on the Ukraine stuff,
Mm-hmm.
saying that we were done sending money to Ukraine. And I know DeSantis was, I think there was like the DeSantis pack actually paid for some dolls to be outside of the event. And the dolls had Fauci and Trump holding hands with the vaccine, because that's literally all his campaign is about. It's about the vaccine and you know.
And grooming.
Driana Sixto from Turning Point USA, she's tried to stay very like, let me get comfortable. Oh, guys, I'm exhausted from traveling. She's trying to stay, she's tried to be very impartial to the entire situation. But today she was just saying like she lives in Miami, so she had to move from Brickell, which is where she lived before the pandemic, and during the pandemic, she had to move from Brickell over to what is this, Doral, because the strictest places in Miami were like Brickell, Edgewater, like where I live, and they were all requiring masks. They were being Nazis, and so Adriana is like, you know, I lived in Miami. Like, you're not gonna convince me. You're not gonna tell me that there were in parts in Florida, like Miami, where you gave the authority to the local politicians to do whatever they wanted. And when they did whatever they wanted, they locked us down. Her neighbor actually committed suicide. So on the day that she left, yeah, she's told me that personally before. She just posted it. So on the day that she left, that she's no longer living in Brickell, that she used to live in the Brickell Key, her neighbor threw him or herself out of the building because that person was so like depressed and it found like no motive to life. So this whole idea that Florida was like a free paradise is just simply not true, you know?
Of course it isn't.
So that's that.
Well, we'll have to go back and watch the debate later, but I do want to watch the interview because I heard that there were some interesting tidbits. But guys, we do want to take a minute to mention our sponsors as we do every week. Check out Sentry H2O, the Patriot-owned water filtration system and under the sink system that's easy to set up, takes up a very small space, and also very affordable compared to other products like it in the market. Not only will Sentry H2O water filtration systems take out all the carcinogens and ugly things from your water, including the stuff making the frogs gay, it's also going to be able to re-energize your water with nutrients and not just go through a reverse osmosis, but also process, but also fill your water back up with the nutrients and minerals that you need to maintain hydrated. Clean water, Patriot owned. You'll be supporting Patriots and supporting mostly peaceful Latinas. Check out Sentry H2O and use code MPL10 for a small percentage off.
Absolutely. So I don't know, we'll have a big turnout today. What do you think? Should we give it more time? I mean, we literally didn't tell anybody anything.
You want to go over Patriot Shave really quick before we get started, and then we can on?
Sure. Hold on 1 second. Where are our banners? So guys, we also are sponsored by Patriot Shave. Patriot Shave is an American business competing with companies like Gillette and others who are using transgender females or males to advertise their razors. Patriot Shave stands for Family, Tradition, Pro America, and with a code MPL10, you can get a small discount. So check them out. They're also featured on the Public Square app. If you don't have Public Square, I also recommend that you download it because they are building the parallel economy. So if you want to fight back against cancel culture, we obviously can't cancel everything because we simply don't have a parallel economy completely built. But there are things that you can start swapping out and contributing to pro-America businesses or businesses that are actually, or products that are actually made in America, you know? So the same thing tomorrow. I think what I'm going to do tomorrow is do a little reel of the headquarters where I'm going to tomorrow, the First Form headquarters, which is an American business manufactured here in St. Louis, Missouri. And they employ like 15,000 people. They're actually getting ready to open up like 3 more warehouses that are going to employ even more people. And they take really good care of their employees. So I think I'm going to also show you guys a little bit of what that looks like, because we just simply need to start trying to fund and also support these American businesses. So, hi Shuda. By the way, Shuda 305. Oh my god, this is like such a bad angle. Shuda 305. Today he sent me a DM. He was over in Hialeah dropping off goods for the Heartbeat of Miami, the pregnancy center.
Love it.
So thank you for that. They are always, it's so sad when I went to visit their that location. They were telling me how the majority of the donations and everything comes from like white people from out of state. Because Latinos simply, I hate to say it, but our people are just simply not that giving, and they're not that a lot of talk. Huh?
Understand la necesidad. They don't have access to the information where it's like these people need help.
I mean, I don't know what it is. I just tell you like what she told me. She's like, like our biggest donors and like they truly struggle. Like they're like pulling teeth for people to donate. And again, it sucks because considering that there's so many Republicans, especially in our city, in our state, and overall there's so many Republicans and Latinos that are pro-life who fight very hard against Planned Parenthood and these abortion mills. Like there should be a lot more of an effort to give these people, like I said, if you don't feel comfortable giving money, then just donate diapers. Like if you feel like there's people are gonna take your money, what about like a gently worn like clothes and stuff like that? So that's that. Please don't forget to share, like, and support our video. We didn't advertise this at all. I was traveling, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it, and super last minute, I actually just posted it on my Instagram to see if more people want to stop by. But somebody did ask, have you ever gotten into a fight with liberals in person? I have. There's actually a video still on my Wake Up with Linda account during the pandemic. This guy that I call Little Kevin with this little gay guy at the post office who wanted me to wear a mask to go inside and drop off my packages from my jewelry store. Started being annoying from like outside of the building, and he's like, wear your mask, wear your mask, wear your mask. And I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking wear my mask. And then when I went inside, he was like, oh, like, what was it he called me? Oh, like, you're a fucking bitch. He was like, you fucking bitch. And like the thing is, I had like so many packages in my arms, like I couldn't really do anything. So I was like, okay, bet. So I went and like I dropped off the packages, and I came back with my phone like ready to fight with him, and I just started like talking shit. So like you could see that video on my Instagram, and he's like, you're a Trump supporter, you fucking Trump supporter. And I wasn't actually wearing any Trump supporter like gear. But I guess just not wearing a mask at that time was associated with being a Trump supporter. And you could see in the video that the whole USPS store was so packed. And the guys, it was like all these black guys like cheering me on. So fucking hilarious. Yeah. And yeah, no, I'm not going to smack little Kevin in the face because I know you're not going to pay for my bail. I know you're not going to pay for my lawyer when fucking little Kevin goes to the district attorney. He's like, I want to press charges for battery. I want to press charges for battery. And then I have to ask you guys to bail me out for $5,000 because you wanted me to smack fucking little Kevin in the face. No, that's not going to happen. So yeah, I've had a few words with little Kevin's, and I'm sure more will come. We were also talking shit to Antifa the other day, who's absolutely obsessed with us, and at the Trump indictment, I think.
Yeah.
And they apparently know our lives and follow us extensively, because there's people that we don't know at all. We've never seen them, but they know us because they're fucking weirdos. So let me play this. Ooh. Sorry guys, hold on. Should we get started, Bella?
Is that a dog video?
No, that was the video.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's start. Let's watch the
I don't live in Portland or Seattle, so I don't give a fuck. Like I'll never live there. So wait, where do I do it, Bella?
You gotta go back to the share screen. And the present. Go
Oh,
to
I see.
present.
Slides, extra camera, video file, stop screen. I guess it is sharing already.
No, not yet. Or maybe you got to change the view. Whoa.
Present. Stop screen sharing. Share screen. Okay, there we go.
Thanks for the super chat, Shuda. What does the super chat say?
Mr. President, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Why aren't you at the Fox News debate tonight in Milwaukee?
Well, you know, a lot of people have been asking me that, and many people said you shouldn't do them, but you see the polls have come out, and I'm leading by 50 and 60 points. And, you know, some of them are at 1 and 0 and 2. And I'm saying, do I sit there for an hour or 2 hours, whatever it's going to be, and get harassed by people that shouldn't even be running for president? Should I be doing that? And a network that isn't particularly friendly to me, frankly. You know, they were backing Ron DeSanctimonious like crazy, and now they've given up on him. I mean, it's a lost cause. It reminded me very much of 2016. You know, in 2016, I went through the same stuff and had to fight them all the way. And then they became very friendly after I won, or just about when I was winning. But I just felt it would be more appropriate not to do the debate. I don't think it's right to do it. If you're leading by 50, 60, I have one problem leading by 70 points. And I'm saying, why am I doing it? And I'm going to have 8 people, 10 people, whoever made the debate. I don't know how many it is, but I'm going to have all these people screaming at me, shouting questions at me, all of which I love answering, I love doing, but it doesn't make sense to do them. So I've taken a pass, as you probably noticed.
Well, I did. I'm grateful that you did. It's interesting, though, because you spent a lot of your career in television.
Yeah.
You had a top show in television on NBC. But you don't feel the need now running for president to do television, obviously. Do you think television is declining?
Well, according to a poll that I guess we just saw, it just came out where it's down like 30, 35%. But I think they were referring to cable. I think cable's down because it's lost credibility. MSNBC, or as they say, MSDNC, is so bad. It's so wrong what they write and what they do and what they say. It's, you know, it's fake news, as I said. I think I came up with that term. I hope I did, because it's a good one. It's not tough enough anymore. It's corrupt news. You know, really what you do is call it corrupt news, but somehow that doesn't play as nicely. But it is corrupt news. So you have MSNBC and you have CNN, who's absolutely doing no ratings at all. I mean, they're dead. But they're doing none because they don't have credibility. They really don't have credibility. Fox is way down, as you know. And the good old days are long ago. I will say this, it could come back, but they just don't have a lot of credibility, Tucker. You know that perhaps better than anybody. I think it was a terrible move getting rid of you. You were number 1 on television, and all of a sudden we're doing this interview, but we'll get bigger ratings using this crazy forum that you're using than probably the debate or competition.
When you say there are people on stage who shouldn't be running for president, who do you mean?
Well, I don't want to really use names, but it wouldn't matter too much. A guy like, I call him Ada Hutchinson. It's Asa, but I call him Ada.
Why do you call him Ada?
You know, I could tell you, but I don't want to get myself in a little trouble. But he's weak and pathetic. I never understood the guy. Never knew him. He was the governor of our.
Let me just say this real quick before we move on. This episode, which is 45 minutes long, has already 83.3 million views on X or Twitter. And the first comment actually right now is Elon Musk saying, interesting to hear things directly versus through the media filter. I obviously don't believe Elon Musk at all, because Elon Musk has actually sat right in front of Trump before when he was in office and was part of his cabinet. Not part of his cabinet, but he was part of like something for Trump. I forgot what it was. I don't know. But the thing is, Elon is trying to turn X into the everything app, including video streaming. So Elon has heard from Trump directly. This isn't the first time that he's heard him, which is freaking ridiculous. But anyways,
Arkansas, not a very popular guy. I don't know how but that state is such a great state. The people are so incredible
Yes.
in that state, and they love me and I love them. How does this guy get elected governor of Arkansas? But he's nasty always, and has been. A guy like Chris Christie, the guy left with a 8%, think of it, 8% approval rating in New Jersey. Now he's running for president, and he runs solely on the basis, oh, let's get Trump. He's like a savage maniac. He's like a lunatic. And that's all he talks about. His poll numbers are very, very low. He's about 2%.
What's he like? You know him well.
No, I've been friendly with him over the years, but I couldn't give him a job because I just never trusted him very much. I was just never one of his people that really trusted him. I never gave him the job. And that's one of the reasons he feels so hurt and so betrayed. And I understand that. I really do. I understand it, but I never gave him, he wanted to be different things. He was looking at different elements of the administration. And I decided I didn't want to do it. And now I'm glad I did, because you see, but we had some great people. I had great people. We'll have even better people if we do this, because now I know Washington. Before I didn't know Washington. But guys like Bill Barr were terrible. I mean, they were, I would say, Bushies. I say that with respect to the Bush family, but they were Bushies, and it doesn't work out for us.
It was clear. This is kind of far afield, but it was just interesting. I read Barr's account of his time. He wrote a book about it, his autobiography. And in it, he lies about Jeffrey Epstein's death. Clearly lies. Do you think Epstein killed himself sincerely?
I don't know. I will say that, he was a fixture in Palm Beach.
Yeah.
I don't know what Barr said about it either. I have no idea what he said. What did he say? He killed himself, probably?
He said he killed himself, and that they were going to do this investigation. They never did the investigation. It's never been public.
Well,
and they hid it. And why are they doing that? And clearly Barr knew.
Shut up.
Why would Bill Barr be covering up the death of Jeffrey Epstein?
Bill Barr didn't do it.
Okay. We got to talk about this. What are you shocked about?
Well, number one, that this isn't even coming up.
Why?
That we exist in a really fast news cycle. The news cycle just shifts so fast. Conversation around Jeffrey Epstein has just, you expect it to just, the news cycle continues to move. So for him to take this almost primetime type interview and bring that question up, particularly as it relates to Bill Barr, I think it's interesting.
Yeah. I just don't know how he wouldn't know, not Trump, but what happened, because Bill Barr was in charge of the hell of Jeffrey Epstein. He was the attorney general when Jeffrey Epstein was in jail. I vividly remember driving back from the Keys with my friends from Key West when Jeffrey Epstein was finally arrested.
Mm-hmm.
And then he dies in custody, U.S. custody for that matter. So I don't know. The whole thing to me is just
no one.
Why wouldn't I don't understand. Why wouldn't the attorney general know what happened? I don't it just seems so calculated.
I think that's exactly why the conversation is so wild that it's coming up right now, because the original story that he had himself never made any sense. So then when the AG declares that it was in fact a suicide, and unalive, then at that point, it's kind of supposed to, people are meant to stop asking questions, but that's not what happened. It had quite the opposite effect. People started asking more questions. And here we are. That arrest happened in 2019. So we're talking about 4 years ago already at this point. And clearly people still have questions. It's become a fixture in pop culture to question the manner in which
Jeffrey Epstein died.
Correct. So, I know that people constantly ask, was Bill Barr one of those people that we believe was a really bad hire by Donald Trump? And I think that the way that he handled the Epstein case is what puts a period at the end of that statement and takes away the question that people might wonder, because there was definitely more of an investigation that I felt could have been done, and it wasn't. It was just really sloppy. If you remember, the cameras weren't working, so then that was a dead end. And then the security guards that were supposed to be patrolling, they fell asleep, so they weren't around at that particular time. And the power went out, so then they couldn't. It's just, how many things could possibly go wrong before you start asking questions?
Yeah. I need to put this on.
An investigation on the election fraud either. Okay, he said he did, and he pretended he did, but he didn't. McSwain, the U.S. attorney in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, said Barr just wouldn't let him do it. It was crazy. Barr became so petrified, so frightened of being impeached. They were going to impeach him. I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah.
It's not a big moment in history. But they said, we're going to impeach. You know, they play a much rougher game, the left, the lunatics. And they were going to impeach Bill Barr, and he was petrified. Now, how do you not get impeached? Don't do any of this stuff. But he didn't do the job there. I don't know what he did with Epstein, but possibly he didn't.
Do you think it's possible that Epstein was killed?
Oh, sure, it's possible. I mean, I don't really believe. I think he probably committed suicide. He had a life with, you know, beautiful homes and beautiful everything, and he all of a sudden he's incarcerated and not doing very well. I would say that he did, but there are those people. There are many people. I think you're one of them, right? But a lot of people think that he was killed. He knew a lot on a lot of people.
He was killed.
You think so?
I think the closer you look, I'm not a conspiracy person at all. I believe everything I hear. But yeah, the closer you look into it, I mean, the Attorney General of the United States, your Attorney General, clearly lied about the Epstein death.
Yeah,
and
he was.
Why?
He was certainly. It wasn't well done. They had no cameras. They had no anything. Everybody was sleeping, and you know, a case could be made. Look, I'm not going to get involved in it, but I can tell you, a case could be made either way. But it certainly wasn't the most well-run place.
So the reason I'm asking you is I'm looking at the trajectory since 2015 when you got into politics, you know, for real, and then won. It started with protests against you, massive protests, organized protests by the left, and then it moved to impeachment twice,
right?
And now indictment. I mean, the next stage is violence. Are you worried that they're going to try and kill you? Why wouldn't they try and kill you? Honestly,
they're savage animals. They are people that are sick, really sick. You have great people in the Democrat Party. You have great people that are Democrats. Most of the people in our country are fantastic, and I'm representing everybody. I'm not just Republicans or conservatives. I represent everybody. I'm the president of everybody.
Oh, God bless
but
them.
I've seen what they do. I've seen the lengths that they go to when they make up the Russia. When that's exposed and they go down, and Barr should have gone after them, and other people should have gone after, and they did very late because the Durham report came out. It was fairly good. It could have been a lot tougher, I guess, but it was fairly good. But it explained how corrupt it was. I'll tell you who did a great job was the Inspector General Horowitz. He did a phenomenal report. You didn't have to go to Durham. He did it on Comey and on, I guess, McCabe and some others. And it was a vicious, it was basically a true report, how bad they are. But these people are sick people. These are people that I think they hate our country. You want to know the truth. When you see open borders, when you see these policies that they have, and so many other things, it's so sad to see. You know, we have a country that's very fragile right now. I've never seen, I will say, look, I ran in 16, which was 15, but I ran in 16, election in 16, and there was tremendous spirit. In 20, there was even more spirit. We got millions and millions more votes. You know, it wasn't even a contest. People said, well, what do you think of 20? I said, we did much better. We did. You got to base it on the number of votes. We got many more votes in 20 than we did in 16. But the election was rigged. It was a rigged election. And with COVID, they used COVID to cheat in a lot of different things. And we have so much on it. It's like so easy. But we had judges that didn't want to look. We had people didn't want to get involved. They called you, he's a conspiracy theorist if you say anything about the election. But I have never seen spirit like there is right now. Even coming down here, just the people on the road that are just absolutely going crazy. And the reason is, I think they like me, and I know they love my policies. I hope they like me too. You know, a lot of people say they don't like me, but they like my policies. I think they like me. But I have never seen spirit like it is right now. And the reason is because crooked Joe Biden is so bad. He's the worst president in the history of our country. I don't think he's going to make it to the gate, but you know, you never know. But he's a corrupt person, so corrupt that I took the name off Hillary. You know, I don't do two people at one time. I took the crooked Hillary and I retired the name. That was a good day for her. I bet she was very happy. And I used it for Joe because it's crooked Joe. But Joe is really.
But you don't think he's going to make it to November of 2024?
Well, I think he's worse mentally than he is physically. And physically, he's not exactly a triathlete or any kind of an athlete. You look at him, he can't walk to the helicopter. He walks, he can't lift his feet out of the grass. You know, it's only 2 inches at the White House, right? It's not a lot. But you watch him and it looks like he's walking on toothpicks. So, and then you see him on the beach where he can't lift a chair. You know, those chairs are meant to be light, right? They're like 2 ounces.
Yeah.
You lift him up. He can't lift the chair. He can't walk to the chair. And I don't know what they're doing with the beach. You know, this beach is seeming to play a big role, but they love pictures of him on the beach. I think he looks terrible on the beach. He looks terrible on the beach.
Skinny legs.
Well, he can't walk through the sand. You know, sand is not that easy to walk through, but when he walks through it, he can't walk through the sand. And there's somebody in there that thinks he looks fabulous at the beach. I think he looks horrible at the beach. Plus, the beach doesn't represent what a president's supposed to be doing. He's supposed to be working.
I want to show you guys a video that I'm going to look for right now of a Biden voter where she actually says that she's like, I'm one of the voters and the reason why Trump is not in office. And I'll upload it. But in the meantime, I was actually also wondering, because here's the thing, they don't do anything. These people don't do anything without a motive. So Trump is right. And I was wondering about that. Why are they trying to show us Joe Biden at the beach? I know it sounds really silly and kind of like minuscule on the greater scheme of everything that's going on, but it's clearly like a brand move. Like it's not just because they want to show us the president taking a sun bath in wherever he is. I think he's like in Massachusetts or something, or Detroit. Where is he from? Delaware. I don't know what it is. I don't have any conspiracies behind it, but it's something that I thought about. And then when Trump brought it up, I was like, he's right. Like I have no idea why they've chosen like Joe Biden beach or Joe Biden at the beach as a way to make him more relatable to the American people.
I don't know.
He's just sitting there like a fucking beach whale. Like I don't understand.
I don't know if it's relatability, because I go back to the theory that we've had for some time, like that they're almost getting ready to phase him out. And I feel like beaches can seem very, you know, he's out there with his family. So it's almost like a retirement type life. Like, could they be setting him up to be able to walk away with like,
I want to talk about that. You'll see.
I want to retire from politics. Oh, I haven't seen it at all. So it's like maybe the idea is to frame him up as create the narrative that Joe Biden's going to walk away from politics so that he can spend time with his family and his grandchildren and do that kind of thing, and potentially be showing these images as a preface to what's actually happening, which is that he's probably not going to make it to the 2024 elections.
Yeah. I want to show you guys really quickly.
I'm going to go get some water while you show them that.
This video of a Biden voter.
Look, you see what Fred says? He says CNN is turning.
That's probably why.
What?
Fred writes, CNN is turning on Biden hard lately. Let me turn this on and then I'll go get water. CNN is turning on Biden hard lately, saying Trump was right about a lot of things. Like, it almost makes you wonder, like, what are they getting ready for, you know?
Right. All right, let me show you guys this video that I found on TikTok while Bella goes and gets water. And this is, by the way, this is a obviously a black lady, and she voted for Biden.
Trump lost. I'm one of them 7 million votes that he didn't get, because I voted because I was told I was black and I should vote Democrat. So I voted Democrat. I'm not doing that no more. And after I'm witnessing them trying to take down Trump as much as possible to keep him from getting back in that White House, that makes me want to vote for him more and more and more.
Good.
We need somebody in there that's real. Not these puppets like Biden. Biden is a puppet. He get in there and he get in front of that camera and he does what they tell him to do. Trump wasn't going to let them tell him what to do. See, that's I'm looking back on all this shit now. And I'm not gonna let another black person or another white person tell me who to vote for. Trump 2024. That's all I gotta say.
And that's that, my friends. Like her, there are many people. I think where you see this is most is actually on TikTok. You guys know that I love TikTok. And you see a lot of these past Biden supporters who regret their vote, because it's like I told people, there were a lot of Americans who thought to themselves, we already saw Joe Biden as VP for Barack Obama, and what we thought was 8 years of a good president. So why does it make a difference if I vote for what I already know, which is this VP into power? And I think that some people did it out of like, I'm just a Democrat and it's not a big deal. There are some people that obviously super hate Trump. I know those people myself. Some of the people are my family members. But there is a lot of others who were moderates who really didn't think that it would get as bad as it does now. In fact, I'm disappointed. That's funny. In fact, Oscar de la Hoya, if you guys know who that is, tweeted, I think today, who wants Trump back in the White House or Trump president? The United States sucks right now. Now, take this into consideration. If America sucks right now for people, for rich people, I mean, not for everybody. I do have some friends that are rich and are completely oblivious to struggles of the middle class and the lower classes, because I talk to them and they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I'm doing great. And I'm like, yeah, because you're making a shit ton of money per day, you know? Not everyone's doing that. But I do think that there is people that their investments are down. They're looking at gas prices. They're looking at groceries. They're looking at everything overall. They're looking at the war. They're looking at foreign stuff. And they see the difference between the Trump era, which was supposed to be chaotic and horrible. And it wasn't really like that. When you think about it, it was more about what the media was showing the American people. The only chaos that was happening during the Trump presidency was the media chaos. That's all. Somebody says here, I gave TikTok another chance because of you, Linda. Not disappointed. TikTok is great. I have a video going viral, non-political, about Logan Paul and his fiance, Nina Agdal. And the boys are not happy about it because I'm saying that men love hoes. So that's pretty funny. But let's continue with our boy.
Supposed to be getting us out of that horrible, horrible war that we're very much involved in with Russia and Ukraine. You could do that. You could do that very easily. I believe you could do that I don't believe he could do it because he's just incompetent. But that's a war that should end immediately, not because of one side or the other, because hundreds of thousands of people are being killed. Can you imagine you're in an apartment house and rockets are going into that building and blowing it up and knocking it down? And who can, why should anybody, human beings, whether they're Russian or Ukrainian or whatever they are, it's got to be stopped. And it can be stopped very easily. It would have never started. If I were president, it would have never started.
So back to Biden, I'm interested. So you think he's failing? He obviously is failing. I think it's clear to everybody. But that would make Kamala Harris the candidate?
Well, not really. I mean, I guess they'd have maybe a free-for-all. A lot of people say she has to remain for certain reasons, the candidate. She has to. I don't think that's true, actually. I don't think that other people would stand for it. She has some bad moments. Her moments are almost as bad as his. I think his are worse, actually.
Yeah.
But
she seems pretty senile, too.
She speaks in rhyme. It's weird. It's weird. But she has bad moments. And
in rhyme?
Well, the way she talks, the bus will go here and then the bus will go there, because that's what buses do. And it's weird. The whole thing is weird. This is not a president of the United States future. And I think they probably have some kind of a primary and other people will get involved.
Newsom, right? I
mean, could be. I mean, I always got along well with him, believe it or not, but could be him, could be somebody else. He's got a big load on his shoulders, because you look at California, what's happened. But I don't know if the American people really, the people that vote for him, I don't even know if they care. You look at so many of the things that are going on, and people don't seem to be, in the old days, if you had a bad record, it meant a lot. Today, if you have a bad record, it doesn't really mean anything. You know, he looks good. He's a nice looking guy, speaks well. But Biden, every time you watch him talking, it's like he's walking on eggs. You're waiting for him to collapse. And he almost always does. And I got to know the leaders of all of the countries, essentially, but the big ones. And the bigger, the tougher the leader. You know, it's like sort of, I guess maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. But I got to know President Xi of China and Putin and Kim Jong-un, North Korea. Did a great job with North Korea, kept us out of a nuclear war. We would have 40,000 dead soldiers right now. They'd drop a nuke right on top of the military base. But we have 40,000 soldiers over there. And I did great. I got along with them great. It's a good, that's a positive. You know, the press said, he said nice things about Kim Jong-un. I also said horrible things at the beginning. Horrible enough that he wanted to talk. And we talked, and we met in Singapore. We met actually twice. And we had unbelievable meetings. I know him very well. We were in great shape with him.
What do you think he and Xi and Putin think of Biden?
I think they can't believe it. I think they probably say this is some kind of a system. You know, they had great respect for our country. They respected me. They had great respect for our country when I was there. Every one of them. Look, if you go to North Korea, you take a look at what happened. You know, the Olympics was dead. South Korea spent billions on the Olympics. Nobody was going to go. They didn't want to get blown up. They called me and they said, we are going to let the Olympics proceed. This is North Korea. I said, you should go into the Olympics. Put your athletes in. It wasn't like, you know, they were big on athletes because, you know.
Famine.
But they went in and they actually participated. And within about 2 days, the entire thing was sold out. And if it wasn't me, that would have never happened. But I got along very well with him, and that's a positive thing. He does have massive nuclear power, by the way. And if Hillary would have gotten in, or if the Obama thought process continued, it would have been a nuclear war, absolutely, with North Korea. He was expecting to go into a war, and it would have been a nuclear war.
So do you think the rest of the world looks on at Biden and thinks someone else has got to be running the government?
Well, somebody else has to be. I don't think he's capable of doing anything. Look, when I debated him, I said, how come, and this was in front of probably not a friend of yours, Chris Wallace. He was the moderator.
Not a friend.
I said, why is it he wants to be Mike, but he doesn't have the talent? It's one of those
bitchy little man.
He wanted to be his father, but he didn't have the talent of his father was great. His father,
little fussy man.
His father interviewed me in 60 Minutes. It was actually a 10. Can you believe it?
I totally believe his father had talent, at least.
I may have been the only guy that he gave a good 60 Minutes. So he was rough.
Really?
His father was tough. He was great, though. He was great at what he did. But Chris Wallace was so upset. He was guarding this guy who wouldn't do a show, by the way. You know, he wouldn't do. I figured I didn't mind Chris Wallace because Biden wouldn't do a show. And it was very obvious. You know, he kept asking him and asking, but he wouldn't do the show. So I figured he's got to like me. But he came from a different planet. But remember when I asked the question, why is it that the mayor of Moscow's wife is allowed to give you $3.5 million? Don't forget, that was brought up. Now it's brought up all the time, but that was brought up by me long before anyone ever heard of it. I said, the mayor of Moscow's wife giving you $3.5 million. What did you do to deserve $3.5 million? To Biden. And Chris Wallace said, this has nothing to do with the debate. I mean, he
got in the way of the question.
No, it was crazy. And I said, well, wait a minute. He got $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife. Now, people forget that, but if you go back and take a look, you will see. And Chris Wallace didn't want me to ask that question. I said, I think it's a very appropriate question. It turned out to be much more appropriate than people thought.
Amazing. So do you have a preference in, assuming you're the Republican nominee and all goes as you plan it to go, do you have a preference in who you run against?
In many ways, I'd love to run against him because his record's so bad. You know, it's still horrible when you look at inflation and everything else, but
just so you guys know, because TikTok does show you everything from the anti-Trumpers to the pro-Trumpers and people that have changed their minds. There are also people out there who are still full on supporting Joe Biden, who think he's doing a phenomenal job with the country. Today, in fact, there was a girl that a bunch of Trump supporters are stitching with her, and they're being really nice about it. This Black girl, just a massive account, like 500,000 followers on TikTok. in her TikTok, I didn't save it, but her TikTok was basically like, hey, there's a lot of you who hate Trump and tell me all the reasons why I shouldn't vote for him, which are very convincing. But there's a lot of you who support Trump, and I'm just so like, I don't understand why. And like, if some of you could just come and explain to me why you support Trump, blah, 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 blah. She goes into this whole rant. And she's asking Trump supporters to come through and explain to her how it is that they're still supporting Trump despite everything that's happened. And so there's a bunch of people that are actually, I don't actually think that she wants to know. I think that she's just annoyed that she sees so many people still supporting Trump, but despite the attacks, despite everything that's happened, despite the indictments and stuff like that. So, but there's a lot of people out there who still think that Joe Biden's doing a phenomenal job. Actually, Joey was mentioning the blue hair liberal, which is Destiny. Destiny is another one who thinks Joe Biden's doing a phenomenal job. I actually think that Destiny just doesn't like to take L's. I think that he knows he's not doing great, but he's just not going to admit it, because that would be him admitting to his entire following and all his enemies that Joe Biden is actually not doing well. By the way, Joey, I had to mute him on X, on Twitter, because he was talking so much smack about Trump supporters, and I just wasn't going to like argue with him. And just, I don't know, it was just, he was like doing way too much, because he genuinely thinks that Trump supporters try to overthrow the government. He genuinely thinks that Trump supporters
believes these things though. Like, I don't think that he doesn't not believe these things. I think that he genuinely does believe these things. Like, you know, when we asked him what were some of the good things that he liked, that he thought that Joe Biden had done good, it's just, this is such a clear example of the different worlds that we exist in. He straight up said that going back into NATO was one of the things that he thought that Joe Biden had done right in his presidency. And we exist in a completely different world where that was one of the worst things. Like, one of the best things that Donald Trump did was take us out of NATO.
Yeah. Yeah, there's he actually posted a meme talking about how great it is that we are supporting NATO and supporting Ukraine, and how our money is actually saving democracy in the, what happened?
Hold on. Let me put this back. Here we go.
Let me see. Destiny, Anomaly, Christ and Gay, and Nelson are so annoying. They're very, very annoying. It's so funny they mentioned Bryson Gray. I'm not really trying to talk shit about him, but I did save a TikTok that's like a guy, and he says, when your Christian extremist friends show up, and the guy is like just being so funny. He's like, you smell that in the air? And his friends are like, no, what's in the air? He's like, sin. I can smell sin in the air. He's like, you know who's here tonight? And his friends are like, no. He's like, Beyonce's in LA tonight. You know what that means? Witchcraft, bro. Like the funniest TikTok. I have to show it to you. Fred says NATO and Paris trade agreement are both trash. They're both trash, but they've convinced people like Destiny and Democrats that these are important treaties, and or in the case of NATO, alliances that we need and able to uphold democracy. Because this actually goes back to World War II, which is a very complicated subject, because there's only one story that we can talk about. But when we talk about the story of World War II, which was really the anti-fascist America and Americans going over to save people, and you guys already know the rest of it. But I just think that there are a lot of Democrats. I'll be honest with you, though. When I talk to my Democrat friends who are very anti-Trump, really hardcore left people, I wouldn't say hardcore left. I would say they're brainwashed by what they watch, but they're culturally conservative. And when I talk to them, they don't like Biden at all. They actually make fun of Biden. They think that he's way too old and that there should be somebody else. And I think this is why, for those people, it will be a lot more convenient if the Democrats were to run someone like Gavin Newsom, Michelle Obama, people that are way younger and more efficient, can actually talk, are not just sleeping on the beach like a little seal, just like Joe Biden, falling off bikes, getting angry. And it's something else that I forgot who pointed it out. It was another Democrat who pointed out how no one is excited about Joe Biden because Joe Biden's also like a grouchy old man who's very pessimistic and very negative. Like, the reason why a lot of these people wanted to get Trump out of the White House was because allegedly Trump was toxic, and the media and the circus, and he's a bad person, and there's always drama. And so they thought that bringing in Joe Biden would put us back into an Obama-like era, this fake era of America, where we were getting along and gays were getting their rights and the blacks had BLM and the Latinos had this, and none of that's happened. What's actually happened is that there's been America's more divided than ever. What's actually happened is that everyone is freaking struggling. Like, also what you see on TikTok, a lot of it is people struggling, people crying on camera because despite them making X amount of money, making more than the minimum wage in some of these cities, not necessarily Miami, New York, or LA, they can't afford their rent. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They can't afford to save. They can't afford to go on a vacation. So it's interesting to see how this is going to play out. And I think that Trump is about to talk about Gavin Newsom in a second. So let's play it.
Others also have very bad records. I mean, California's a bad record. So, should it be Gavin or should it be somebody else? When I look at San Francisco, what's happened to that incredible city? That was one of the greatest cities in the world just a short while ago. And now it's very sad when you look at it. Los Angeles, every city practically, all the Democrat-run cities, Republican-run cities are doing very nicely because they arrest people when you have crimes. And they don't go after political candidates because they think it's good. I mean, it's like been amazing. My poll numbers are the highest I've ever had. But because people understand it.
Can I just ask you, that gets back to my original question. So if the protest didn't work, you got elected anyway. Yeah. Impeachment didn't work twice, obviously. Indictment is not working. Your poll numbers go up. When they raided Mar-a-Lago in August of last year, your numbers went up. They can indict you 20 times and you're not going to lose the Republican primary because of that.
Well, so it makes it look even more ridiculous. I mean, the 4 indictments, and maybe there'll be more. I don't know. These people are crazy.
But they're counterproductive. So if you chart it out, it's an escalation, is what I'm saying. Yeah. So what's next after, try to put you in prison for the rest of your life? That's not working. So don't they have to kill you now?
I think the people of our country don't get enough credit for how smart they are. And I'm not sure I would have said this 10 years ago, but they get it. They really get it. When somebody gets indicted, your poll numbers go down. When somebody gets indicted, you announce, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be leaving to spend time with my family and to fight for the rest of my life on this stuff. But you're out of politics. I got indicted 4 times. All trivia, nonsense, bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's horrible when you look and you look at what they're doing. The boxes hoax, I'm covered by the Presidential Records Act. I'm allowed to do exactly that. He's not covered, and he's got 25 times the number of boxes, and he's got them stored in Chinatown. He's got them stored in a flimsy garage underneath his Corvette at Penn. And by the way, at Penn, he gets millions of dollars. China pays this guy millions of dollars. See, I think he's the most corrupt president we've ever had. And he also has the distinction of being the most incompetent. And I believe both. I mean, he's both incompetent and corrupt. So I actually believe he's compromised because China knows so much about him. They know where the money comes from. They know where it is, who paid it, and they probably paid it. Well, they do pay Penn, and he gets $1 million. I think he takes $999,000 because, keeps it a little bit under $1 million, like by $1. But he, in many ways, is a Manchurian candidate. We have a Manchurian candidate, and he's afraid to tell Russia to get out of Cuba. He's afraid to tell China to get out of Cuba. He's afraid. China now is building, think of this. China is building military installations in Cuba. The Cuban population of Miami is not too happy because they're never going to be able to go back.
That's what I was telling you.
And you don't even hear about it. And the worst culprit is the press, the media, because normally, when I first heard that China is building installations in Cuba. And installations means military installations. Okay, you know, they said just some communication. They did that on the islands with Japan. They took the island, they started this massive construction, and they told everybody, including the Japanese have to be very careful. They told everybody that this is a housing development. They're going to build a housing development. And I said, how come the runway is 20,000 feet long? You know, private jets need 4,000 feet. They don't need 20,000 feet. The big ones need 20,000 feet. They don't even need 20. And I looked at the runway. I said, that's the largest runway ever built, both in width and length, for housing development. There's nobody that has a plane that big that you would have a runway that's
Why
that's
is
for
China
testing.
allowed to conduct imperialism in our hemisphere?
Well, yeah, and it's far beyond Cuba. It's all over South America.
Yeah, in the Caribbean.
So we built a thing called the Panama Canal. We lost 35,000 people to the mosquito, you know, malaria.
Yeah.
We lost 35,000 people building. We lost 35,000 people because of the mosquito. Vicious. They had to build under nets. It was one of the true great wonders of the world. As he said, one of the 9 wonders of the world. No, it was one of the 7. It happened a little while ago, you know. It says 9 wonders of the world. You could make 9 wonders. He would have been better off if he stuck with the 9 and just said, yeah, I think it's 9. But this is one of the true 7 wonders of the world. And you take a look at the Panama Canal. It was such an incredible engineering marvel. We sold it under Jimmy Carter. We sold it to Panama for $1. The following day, they quadrupled the amount of money that ships had to pay to get across. They didn't lose one ship.
Let me tell you why China is allowed to have not allowed to have, but why China is allegedly, from what Tucker Carlson just said, why they have imperialism all over our hemisphere, and especially in the Caribbean, actually places like El Salvador. Why? Because China doesn't impose their culture on the countries that they help. Let me repeat that again. When the United States goes overseas, for example, what they did in Afghanistan when they took over after 9/11 was that they come in, they install their own government, they do a coup, they take out the people that they don't like, they kill them, they torture them, they have political prisoners, and then they have their fake little government the same way that we have ours now. What happens then is that the U.S. says, we are going to enforce what we believe is a liberal democracy on your traditional 7th century Muslim country, or wherever they want to go, right? In Ukraine, they're doing the same thing. That's why they hate you. That's why they hate Russians so much. Russia wants to conserve their traditional Russian culture. Ukraine, completely different. In fact, the ambassador to the U.S. from Ukraine is a transgender woman. A transgender woman. Okay. So China goes into Africa. They've been doing this in Africa for a very long time. We're going to help you build roads. We're going to help you build schools. We're going to help you build homes. And we're not going to tell you how China has to operate. We're not going to try to change your culture. They just donated, I think it was a library or something in El Salvador. So when you go to that library in El Salvador, you're actually going to have like, this is donated from the Republic of China, the whole thing is in Mandarin. I saw it out through a video. Wherever they go, and I'm not saying that they're good guys. I'm not saying they're not doing this with some sort of long-term plan, or I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to accomplish. I don't think they're the good guys. I don't think that we should be praising them or any of like that. Don't get me wrong whatsoever. I'm just telling you, based on what I have researched on X, aka Twitter, based on what I have seen on these videos, based on what I have seen other heads of states talk about, especially in China, in Africa. The reason why the continent, the entire continent of Africa, is standing with Russia and therefore standing with China is because they have seen what Barack Obama started doing. You know, a lot of it, whether people want to admit it or not, I know we don't want to talk about this, it's homosexuality. The people in Africa have a huge problem with the fact that America goes to their country and they want to bring in global homo. They want to force in, why do you think that was in Nigeria or Ghana? What do you think these countries are passing harsh laws against homosexualities? They're not just saying we're not going to allow you to not get married. They're not taking that route. They're saying if you get caught promoting homosexuality, you're going to jail. If you get caught doing X, Y, and Z, you're not just going to jail, you're facing the death penalty. It was Uganda. You're absolutely right. That is actually happening. It's a pushback against what Barack Obama started in those countries. When the Taliban took over again, after the Americans were there for 20 years, and I still have everything saved from that time 2 years ago. You can see all the Muslims, women and men alike, for the exception of some people in Kabul, which is the most liberal city in Afghanistan. Everything else in the entire country is very, very pro-Sharia law, actually 90% of it, including the women. You may say it's because they're dumb. You may say it's because they don't know any better. That could be true. But the reality is that they wanted the Americans out of there, and they were tired of them enforcing their culture on these people that are actually 100 years behind us. They're not even 20 years behind us, 10 years, 50 years. They're 100 years before us. They're forcing these people, the Afghans, to eat soy-based bullshit American food, as opposed to what the traditional food that they eat. There's so many things that were happening. There was a huge bureaucracy going on in Afghanistan. People were tired of that. Things weren't getting done. They were stealing all the money for the local politics. They were forcing women to learn about gender studies and all this stuff. So why that is actually that question that Tucker just asked Trump, I'm giving you the answer. It's because China doesn't enforce their culture on these countries.
But I don't think that that's so much the question that's being asked, though. Like,
yeah, he's asking why they're bringing over imperialism to the West.
Being question. It goes straight to the conversation that you're having, but nonetheless, America is known for its brute force. Like, we're in charge. It's not a matter of it's just the way that it's worked. Now, clearly, through subversion and infiltration, the imperial United States, you could say, is at a downfall right now. But I see the question as more so, why is the brute force of America allowing the Chinese to set a base 90 miles off the shore of American soil? It's
not the Chinese, it's the Russians setting base in.
Well, Tucker said the Chinese. The Russians have always been there.
Right.
The Russians have always, which goes back to the Russian missile crisis of the 19th.
Yeah, but they're all in one alliance now. It's BRICS.
They are in one alliance.
Brazil, Russia, China, all those countries.
And with the right president, if we had the right president in the White House right now that understood foreign policy, they'd understand why the Canadian, I was going to go into Canada, why the Chinese cannot be setting up bases miles away from the Florida shoreline. Very similar to how it's long been seen footage that the Chinese have bases in Canada. Right. To our border.
On the border, allegedly.
As well as it's been speculated that allegedly the Chinese are in the southern border as well.
Right.
So, one does have to wonder exactly what it is that we are walking into, because if they're in the northern border of Canada, if they're in the southern border of Florida, 90 miles away from us on the shore of Cuba, I mean, that's a pretty close distance where if they have a whole...
I think this comment right here really nails it down, which is the Chinese bribe everyone versus the US, who only bribe the rich. And I think this actually nails it to the T. When they're going to these countries, and I actually heard Nayib Bukele say it from his own mouth. I think it was a library, like a huge library that they donated, or the money to make the library. Obviously, they're not going to take a library in El Salvador. And it's because of the people, right? So I think that they're taking a different approach. Again, we're not saying that they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart, because they're such good people and they just want kids to read. They obviously have intentions, and probably not good intentions behind it, which is world dominance. Kenneth, I just want to clarify this comment. A lot of it is the institutions. So, for example, when it came to like women rights in Afghanistan, or trying to enforce the liberal democracy on these people, it wasn't necessarily done through the army. Like, you guys are stationed there, you have a completely different role that these institutions. It's no different than when Lindsey Graham one time was crying about how we needed to send I don't know how many billions of dollars over to Pakistan because we needed to teach women about feminism and gender equality. So a lot of this goes to our institutions, no different than grants go to institutions here in America. The same thing with like the food supply and whatnot. So a lot of it is more, it's like the money that goes to these countries and how it's split and spread through the different institutions. So hopefully that would clarify that comment. US should get rid of sanctions on Cuba, and Cuba would get rid of China. So that is actually something that, like, I would say 70% of the Cuban population in the States, particularly, I would say, right, Bella, in South Florida, they're very against that. They're actually very pro sanctions. And they would probably throw a fit if that was the case. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that it goes back to why are the sanctions imposed to begin with? And it's when you're asking Cuba to operate within legal parameters that avoid further corruption and they can abide by that, then the sanctions have to remain. So, I mean, for the exile community does feel very strongly about it, because any economy that's fueled into Cuba is only going to fuel the Cuban government and not the Cuban people, which are at a disadvantage. So the idea of lifting the sanctions, I mean, people can feel differently about that, but I mean, the sanctions were lifted for a short amount of time under Barack Obama. And I mean, what did the people of Cuba really see? Nothing really. I mean, Chanel went out there and did a fashion show. Yeah. That's it, you know? And I think that maybe the Kardashians did a video out there, and it was great for capitalism at the sake of, you know, the mirage that took place in Cuba around that time, because it didn't really benefit the Cuban people. So the idea of the sanctions, I don't know if that's the solution, because it's still a communist government.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes back to how it is that America used to deal with problems then versus now.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take a passive approach towards your enemies where they can walk all over you, then, you know, we're going to end up seeing what it is that we're seeing right now, where there is an effort to collapse.
Obama did go to that baseball game with Raul Castro.
He did. That was right before the sanctions were lifted.
Yeah.
It was one of the last things that he did before he left the White House, which is why it was short-lived, because Trump courts corrected. But, you know, I think that the bigger problem is that we don't want that kind of presence. Like, having like Chinese presence in the island can be significant. I mean, we know what it's, having a potential hostile enemy 90 miles from our border is a problem. And America is a country that's always dealt with these kinds of problems proactively, again, through like a stronghold. And whether or not that makes us the bullies of the world or whatnot, it's just who we are as a country.
Yeah, but it's too bad we're fucking being run, but we don't even know who the hell is being run.
Well, that was the difference between Trump.
You know, this would have never happened under Trump.
It would have never happened because Trump had the ability to bring down that iron.
Right. I know it sounds very simplistic, but that's just the truth. It would have never happened. This
man, then he had the ability to go into the negotiations with Russia, with China, with all of these countries, potentially become hostile enemies, and found a common ground where, because he's a good businessman, still left America at a disadvantage while not leaving his opponents feeling like they just got screwed over, which is very much what I feel dealing with Americans can feel like sometimes for foreign countries.
There is Joe Biden, the Biden campaign for re-election put out a pro-abortion message during the Fox News debate, and it's actually pretty funny. I wish I could upload it right now, but I can't. Some of you guys could see it. You could see him there with like the little red eyes. Get real, Jack. I'm bringing Roe back. So they're gonna make the election about right. Let me get back to this.
And now they've made it much bigger, and now they've widened it. They've doubled it, right? They've more than doubled it. And it's one of the most profitable things. Any time it's just incredible, right? We gave it away for $1. China now controls it. They actually control the Panama Canal. They run it, they control it. And we shouldn't let that happen. And we can't let China be in Cuba. And they'll get out. If I'm president, they'll get out.
They'll get out.
A very good relationship with President Xi, but he respected this country. He respected me. And he'll get out. And we can't let them run the Panama Canal. We built the Panama Canal. Should have never been given to Panama. We should have had it. But we gave it for $1. Think of it. They quadrupled. In one day, they lifted the fees, which are, pretty big for these massive ships to go through, right? Rather than going around the Cape and through all the tremendous storms, such beauty, it's beautiful stuff. But you didn't want to get caught in those storms. Those were storms that wiped out the biggest ships. And we go through the Panama Canal, we built it, and we gave it away for $1. Think of that. How stupid are we? We have done the stupidest things in this country. And now we have a president that can't put two sentences together, can't speak, can't walk, can't talk. I don't think he gets to the starting gate, but these people do miracles. I mean, he ran out of his basement, and you got away with that one because of COVID, so he sort of got away with it. They cheated on the election. But you have people that are very smart, but they're fascists and they're radical left lunatics, and they're destroying our country with the all-electric cars and the windmills all over the place, which, by the way, don't work. And they're most of them made in China. For the most part, they're made in China. Germany a little bit, but China.
Pause that.
You look at what's happening to our country, even no voter ID.
Pausing.
Sidebar conversation of just how the smart city thing is coming to life.
Mm-hmm.
We've been getting knocks on the door by this company that basically they rent out your roof space to put their solar panels on. So as opposed to you going out and buying the solar panel product that then you're responsible over, where if it breaks, you have to replace it. If there's an emergency, something with the roof, them off, remove them yourself. This company rents the space on your roof and puts in the solar panels, right? Anyways, the solar panels are all in an effort to create additional energy so that you can sell energy to FPL. Because what's going to happen is that they've created, they passed a bill. This is a Floridian bill that passed, where over the next 9 years, FPL got the approval to give us an increase in our utilities in order to be able to remove all of our electric poles and turn that functionality of the electric poles into an underground system. This is all going back to like the smart city development. And it all goes back to Biden's EO, where
the Green New Deal, well, the Green New Deal that Biden came up with, that has a name.
That we're going to be emissions free by 2032. So do you remember a couple of years ago when I started talking about the Global Covenant of Mayors? And on this Global Covenant of Mayors, basically what it was is that it would take small mayors from smaller cities in the U.S. or counties in the U.S. and it would make a commitment to the United Nations that they were bring down, basically incorporate this Green New Deal at a local level in order to be able to bypass the legislation and having to write this into law. So if you get some kind of agreement in exchange for monetary compensation from these local mayors into these organizations, then clearly you're able to then enforce these Green New Deal type rules. And we're watching it. It's happening. He bypassed legislation and the approval, like fiscal process of approving this. And we are absolutely headed into this Green New era where the goal is very much to make us completely emissions free and completely energy dependent by 2032.
Yeah.
Anyways,
No, I just wanted to chime in, and because I actually saved a screenshot when I was on the airplane on the way here. And it says 14 major American cities are part of the globalist climate organization known as the C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group, which has an ambitious target by the year 2030 of 0 kg of meat consumption, 0 kg of dairy consumption, 3 new clothing items per person a year, 0 private vehicles owned, and 1 short haul returned flight, less than 15,000 kilometers every 3 years per person. And Miami's one of them. I think I was showing you guys. It's like Miami, Boston, LA, San Diego, New York. And so this is going to be, I think, the fight for the human species, which is why it's been so many years of propaganda for climate change. I mean, even on this, actually on YouTube, you have to be very careful of how you talk about climate change. You can't say that climate change is a HOAX. You can't say that on Facebook actually has a policy also against disinformation for climate change. And I'm sure Twitter is going to have it as well. So this is going to be, I think, where humans are going to be faced with, what are you going to do about it? And it's not going to be pretty. And I don't think it's going to be very peaceful. And we may see stuff that we don't want to talk about on this channel pop
I
up.
wondered, to that point that you're going towards right now, you know, I think that it's always looked like the Republic will stand at that line of defense on a state-by-state basis.
Yeah.
So they're going to rise up. Some states won't. Some cities...
No, because people believe in this stuff.
Right. And
people are not having children because of this, right? There's men out there that are having vasectomy parties because they don't want to bring an extra person that's going to be consuming oxygen. There's
right.
people that genuinely believe that cow farts are one of the main drivers of climate change. So absolutely, there's people that are not gonna that are totally gonna buy into this agenda and are gonna be okay with all of this. Did you see the video where college students were saying climate change is the biggest threat to our country? Yeah, there's a climate change like clock that people like to always refer to from time to time to say that we only have like 15 years before doomsday.
Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, I mean,
why don't they want voter ID? There's only one reason they don't want voter ID, because they want to cheat. I mean, who doesn't want, the Democrat convention, the last one, they had voter ID that was this big. It looked like a prison card, this big on their chest. You walked in, they had your picture, your this, your fingerprint, they had everything. The most incredible voter ID I've ever seen. That was to get into the Democrat National Convention. But to get into vote, if you buy groceries, if you buy practically anything now, you have ID on a card, credit cards or otherwise.
But don't you think it's racist to have to show your ID?
Well, they probably say that. They use anything not to show ID, because voter ID is pretty simple. And we could go back, and we should go back to all paper ballots, voter ID, same-day voting. France did it. France had mail-in ballots, and it was terrible. Anytime you have mail-in ballots, you're going to have massive cheating on your elections. Anytime, but not just the presidential election. Anytime you have...
Isn't that the whole point of them?
Yeah.
So you can cheat?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's the whole point. That's their whole point. They want to cheat. Yeah. They have to cheat because their policies are so bad that if they didn't cheat, they couldn't get elected. Who wants open borders? Who wants high taxes? Who wants high interest rates? Who wants to not be able to use a gas stove or have to drive an electric car, which, you have a 4-hour drive, but the car only goes an hour and a half. So you have to charge it. The happiest moment for somebody in an electric car is the first 10 minutes. In other words, you get it charged, and now for 10 minutes. The unhappiest part is the next hour, because you're petrified that you're not going to be found another charger. People, I'm saying, I'm not knocking electric cars, they're fine. They're fine. But if people want to buy a gasoline car or a hybrid, hybrids are pretty good, actually, but they should be allowed to buy. They don't want to do any of this. So right now, California's in a big brownout because their grid is a disaster. The grid all over the country is sort of a disaster, but the grid in California. And yet they want to have, in a very short period of time, millions and millions of cars going off that grid, essentially. It doesn't work.
So plug your car into a grid that's failing.
You should be able to buy an electric car. You know, electric cars could be fine if you drive short distances and you want to have, you know, whatever, and you have plug-ins everywhere you go. They could be fine. But you got to have gasoline cars. You got to have everything. Let people buy everything. Now there's the new thing is your heating systems in the house. They don't want you to have a modern day heating system. They want you to use a heating system that will cost you at least $10,000 to buy and won't work very well. You know, none of the stuff works as well. One of the things I did with EPA is you have states, many states, most of the states have so much water, you know, it comes out of heaven, right? The water pours down and you have it. It's there. It's got to go wherever it goes, into the oceans, whatever. It's not like a big problem. Now, in some states, they have a problem. You know, you have some desert areas and all, and for that, it's okay. But they have sinks where no water comes out. You turn it on, no water comes out. No water comes out of the shower. No water is allowed to go into the washing machine for your dishes or for your clothing or what. And I avoided all of that.
Wait, they have sinks where no water comes out?
Sure, you have restrictors. When I say no water, very little water. You want to wash your hands, right?
Yeah.
And you've seen this, and you turn on the sink and it's very little. Or you want to wash your beautiful hair, right? And you're standing under a shower. Then the suds never go. If the water comes out very slowly. I'm sure you've seen this. It usually takes place in new hotels and new homes.
Yeah, you take a drill and take the
They have
limiter out.
Well, you can, but now they make it so you can't do that so easily. They have a restrictor. It's called a restrictor, and it restricts the water from coming out. So I ended all of that, and you have to see these. They let the water come out.
So I'm not even kidding when this is already a thing in Europe. In fact, Jenna Covello, when she goes to Europe in the summer, she was in a very high-end spa that was supposed to be like, she's like, I'm booking this spa, like really relaxing place, and a wellness like hotel, like not just a regular hotel, like a hotel that is specifically made with packages and amenities so that you have the wellness experience. And she was documenting the whole thing, and she was so pissed because there was like the time, like the whole, everything that Trump is saying right now, like when the lights come out, the amount of water that you can use, they don't want to wash the sheets or towels because of that reason. Now you're paying thousands of dollars, maybe hundreds of, God knows how much money she paid for that hotel. Then, like, for example, the utensils have to be like bamboo. So these are things that are like not happening in the world. I don't know if you guys actually know that, when Trump came into office, there was a ban on iridescent, like the older bulbs, the light bulbs. Mm-hmm. What are they called? The ones that are like more yellowish, that are not like the newer ones. That has a name. When Trump came into office, he got rid of that ban, and they just actually Biden just signed an executive order where there's this entire category of bulbs that are manufacturers can't produce them anymore. It all has to do with this agenda. So yeah, it's
passed again recently. I have yellow bulbs out here.
It just happened.
Our kitchen.
It just happened, like literally like a month ago.
Wow, we're gonna have to stockpile because this is where we're.
Yeah. No, like, so everything, it's,
you know what people do? They wash their hands like 5 times longer, or in the washing machine, they'll press for their, let's say the dishwasher, they'll press it. Then they'll press it about 7 or 8 times.
Yeah.
They'll end up using more water, and it still won't be very good.
I'll tell you right now.
I met with the head of Whirlpool. They were practically going out of business during my administration. And they said to me, from Ohio, incredible, great state. I love Ohio. They were really doing badly because people were dumping washing machines all over, mostly from South Korea, but also from China. And he was explaining it.
All right, because somebody asked. The Biden administration has pushed forward a rule that bans the production and sale of energy inefficient light bulbs that use too much energy to give off a level of brightness, such as the incandescent light bulbs. In more technical terms, the new rule requires bulbs to emit 45 lumens per watt. So whatever the fuck that means. Yeah. That's what they did. And that was on August 4th.
Just a terrible situation. I said, let me ask you, how's the quality? He says, we're better, but they are good enough quality. But, of course he's going to say that, but, they are better. He said, but they don't allow us. They're dumping these machines. They're cutting us in half. They're killing us. And on top of it, the government won't let us use water in our machines. I mean, he shows me like a quarter of a bottle of water. That's supposed to be washing clothing. And I freed it all up, and I put tariffs on these countries that were selling and the machines coming into the country. And that company went from all the washing machine companies, they make washing machines, they make dryers, they make all of the different machines that do this kind of work, including dishwashers. And they went from a disaster area to being just thriving.
But can I ask,
they love me in that part of Ohio.
Well, I bet they do, but why should EPA, no one at EPA was elected by anybody.
Yeah. Why
do they have the power to decide how much water your washing machine uses? Shouldn't Congress in a democracy get to vote on that?
Yeah, you could say that. They do things that are not very...
So how do you, that's my question. How do you, if you get elected again, go back to Washington, how do you keep the agencies under control? How do you keep FBI and CIA specifically under control?
The way you do it, like I fired Comey, that was a big deal. A lot of people said, and I fired him very early. Somebody said, oh, I wish you would have fired him. There was a real question about firing him anyway. You understand, because, when they have a 10-year term, there is a question. I fired Comey. That was a great thing. If I didn't fire Comey, maybe I wouldn't be talking to you, or I'd be talking to you about real estate or something else other than politics, right? That was a coup, in my opinion. That was a very sick deal. That was the insurance policy. You remember the insurance policy? Oh, she's going to win, darling. She's going to win. But just in case she doesn't, we have an insurance policy. An insurance policy was what they were doing. And we caught them with that. That was a very important tweet or whatever it was, text. It was a big deal. That was a big deal. The insurance policy. She's going to win 100 million to 1. That's not good odds. At least they gave me one, right? 100 million to 1. But just in case she doesn't win, we have an insurance policy. And everybody said, that's strange.
Yeah, what the hell was
That's
that?
strange. But we caught all that because I fired Comey. Because when I fired Comey, it was like throwing a rock into a hornet's nest, into a nest of bees, and the place went crazy.
So when you were president, are you confident that you knew everything, say, CIA was doing around the world?
No, I'm not. It's a very interesting group of people. I had very good relationships, I thought, but I was a little surprised when I got out that, things go on. Look, it's...
What were you surprised by?
I was surprised. I think it's some of the people. I was surprised that there was... I had a group of people. Look, we killed many, using the CIA, I have to say this, very bad actors. We were very good at it. You look at Soleimani, you look at al-Baghdadi, bigger than Osama bin Laden. I mean, Osama bin Laden, but al-Baghdadi did ISIS, and he was rebuilding ISIS very strongly.
And that was the CIA that did that?
That was really us that did that.
Yeah.
That was really us that did that. And Soleimani was us that did that, not so much CIA. But we did some very good work with the CIA. What I started, when I looked at the 51 intelligence agents saying that was the laptop from hell was Russia disinformation, when I took a look at that, I said, that's a horrible thing. They knew it wasn't. They knew it was not. And by the way, you're talking about cheating on the election? McLaughlin and Fabrizio, great pollsters, they said a thing like that plus other things meant anywhere from 10 to 17% of the vote would change.
Whatever happened to Mike Pence? You've always been nice to Pence. I've never heard you criticize Pence. You've defended him in public many, many times. He's out there attacking you. What is that?
So Mike wants to run for president. You got to understand, in my opinion, Mike Pence had the absolute right to send the votes back to the legislatures. The Democrats and everybody said, you don't have the right. In other words, what I said, is he a human conveyor belt? You mean if he finds fraud in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, in any of these states, Arizona, he has to send them to Mitch McConnell, right? That's right, sir. Well, if he finds fraud, he has to. Yes, sir. I said, so he's a conveyor belt. Boom, put him in. I said, I don't agree with that. And we had some lawyers, not all, we had some lawyers that said, no, you do have the right to send them back to the legislatures to be rechecked. Because if you looked at what went on in Wisconsin, who, by the way, now agree with me, Wisconsin has been virtually, other than the fact they're not allowed to do anything statutorily, but Wisconsin has been, I mean, what they found is incredible. I mean, we won Wisconsin. But Mike Pence had the right, in my opinion, to send them back.
Do you ever talk to him now?
No, I haven't spoken to him in a long time. I was very disappointed in him. I didn't want to do what Thomas Jefferson did. Thomas Jefferson, it was Georgia. And it was, hear ye, hear ye, the great state of Georgia is not capable or allowed to tabulate their votes. And Thomas Jefferson, who was the vice president, said, is Georgia sure that they cannot tabulate their votes? Georgia is sure. He didn't send them back and have them redo it. He said, we will keep the votes of the great state of Georgia for Thomas Jefferson and his president. I didn't ask him for that. Could have done that too, but I didn't. I thought that would be turmoil. I asked him to send them back to his legislature, to the legislatures, you know, in Wisconsin, let's say.
But why didn't he? I mean, you'd worked together for 4 years. You're the president. He's VP. You say you're aligned on everything.
I think he got very bad advice. I really do. Now, let me tell you what happened. I sat there with a few people. I think his lawyer was in the room too. His lawyer was very much against it. There were other lawyers that felt you could do it. It was one of those things. I think you could have done it. I think you can always do something if you see fraud or if you see problems. But it's very interesting. So after the election was over, the rhinos got together with the Democrats and they redid the election, so you couldn't do it anymore. So then I called the people. I said, so in other words, you're saying I was right. You could do it. Yes, you could do it. In other words, they took the Voting Act and they redid it so the vice president no longer has the power to do what I said he could do. So when that happened, I said, wow. And you know, you'd look some of these Democrats in the eye and they'd say, he has absolutely no right to do it. And immediately after the election,
it was important.
They met rhinos, could name them all, and Democrats, and they approved legislation that takes away the right of the vice president to do it. So I said, so you're saying I was right. The vice president did have the right to do it. And they said, yes, he did.
So if you're saying they stole it from you last time, why wouldn't they do the same?
But what he's basically saying is that after they gave him so much crap for asking Mike Pence to return the electors to the vote to the original electors in each state, yada yada yada, that he did have the power to do that. They said no, that's actually unconstitutional. And you know, Mike Pence actually said that he wasn't able to do it. After that happened, both Republicans and Democrats came together to ban the vice president from doing that ever again. So to Trump's point, it's like, well, if he wasn't allowed to do it, why is it that you're changing the laws?
Why altering the laws to prevent it?
If you were never able to do it, you don't have to change the laws to prevent it from ever happening again, because it's not in the law. It's illegal. But clearly it is, which is why they're trying to change the law. So that's that. This is almost done, by the way.
In this time.
Oh, well, they'll try. They're going to be trying, yeah. But, and not only me, you know. Look, DeSantis is out. I think he's gone. So he was at a level. People have figured him out. He's gone. But if somebody else got in, other than me, they'll go at him just as viciously as they did me. These people are sick. They will go after them. And a lot of people say they won't be able to hold up. I do get credit for holding up quite well, I must tell you. I think it's...
How do you do that? How do you get indicted, you know, every week and stay cheerful?
It's... I think it's a lot easier because I'm so high in the polls, because it means the people get it. The people see it's a fraud. The people see it, like this horrible district attorney from just a little while ago, from essentially Atlanta, that's Fulton County. she said, basically, I don't have any right to challenge an election. Well, what about Stacey Abrams? What about Hillary Clinton? What about all of these Democrats that are still challenging my election? The same people that are saying he's challenging an election challenged my election. And they did it with slates. They did it with all sorts of things. They were very bad about it. But basically, they're suing me and they're saying, you don't have any right to challenge it. If you challenge an election, we're going to indict you and put you in jail. So what they're doing is they've weaponized, and don't kid yourself, the DOJ and Biden and the whole group, they're watching all of this stuff. They love the local stuff. You know, the DA in Manhattan. Not only that, they put one of the DOJ top people into the Manhattan DA's office to run things. They don't even have a case against me. It's not even a case. Everyone says, even the Democrats say, you can't bring these cases. You have no case. The attorney general or the district attorney, Fannie Willis in Atlanta, she's getting killed. Basically, she's saying Trump doesn't have the right to criticize an election. But you've been around long enough now. You've seen many elections criticized. I mean, Hillary Clinton goes crazy. Every time she talks, she says, he's not the president. Jimmy Carter said, he's not the president. Well, I am the president. Hillary Clinton called me, by the way, at 3:02 in the morning to congratulate me the night of the election.
Did her voice crack?
Well, her voice was, it's very different, I will say. I won't get into that. But
what do you mean?
Her voice was very different. Don't forget, they were all celebrating at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I came home and I said, I think we won. I felt we won because the rallies are so big. We'd go to Wisconsin and we'd go to Georgia. We'd go to different states. In Michigan, we'd have rallies. In Pennsylvania, we had 58,000 people in Butler. And I said, how are we losing this? How do you have a rally where you have from 50 to 100,000 people, many of them? I did 7 a day for a couple of days. That's a lot. These are big rallies too. And I didn't hold back. I didn't say, let's make them let's do abbreviations, right? But they challenged this stuff. Yeah. Hillary called me up and conceded. Now, the word is that Obama said you have to do that. But she called up and totally conceded. But now, every time you see her on television, she's saying she's challenging the election.
Do you think
so? That would mean that she should be indicted, but that would mean also that Stacey Abrams in Georgia should be indicted because she still thinks she won the election for governor. She still thinks that. She's never recanted. And
do you think Stacey Abrams will be indicted for that?
No, of course not. She won't be. The Democrats don't get indicted for things like that. They don't get impeached. No, it's a different thing. With that being said,
yes,
I had great support when they did impeachment hoax #1 and impeachment hoax #2. Jim Jordan, the House was fantastic. And actually the Senate was very good for me, other than, Mitch McConnell. I think it's too bad I endorsed him. He was begging, he was going to lose that race and I endorsed him and he ended up winning the race because of my endorsement. He was down, he was going to lose to Amy McGrath. She was $90 million in cash, all set to go. She was leading by 3. He was going down. I did him a favor. And then 3-4 months later, he really wanted to impeach me. He's a bad guy. But if you look at what's going on politically, so interesting. The level of loyalty is different in politics than it is in normal life, I will say. With that being said, I've had great loyalty also. But the House was fantastic. The Senate was very good. They overrode Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, in my opinion, was trying to get senators to impeach me, especially for the second one. And on the first one, he acted very, very slow. He should have gone much faster. But Mitch McConnell wanted to, and the senators went up to him, guys that are subservient to him because he gives money. He gives them money. He gives them a lot of money. He raises some money and he gives it to them, and therefore they do what he said. That's the only form of leadership he's got.
So last question. If you're elected president again, what's your number one priority? When you ran last time, you said, I will build a wall. This time, your bottom line top promise to the country.
So you can do numerous things at the same time.
Of course.
But let's say number one is border and taking hundreds of thousands of criminals that have been allowed into our country and getting them out and bringing them back to their country, Guatemala. By the way, not only the 4 countries that we think of as neighbors, all over the world. Last month, we had 149 countries represented. Think of it. We had 149 countries represented, Tucker, from places that many people never even heard of, coming into our country. And they're coming in from mental institutions, and they're coming in from prisons. They're emptying out their prisons all over South America. They're emptying out their mental institutions. Terrorists are pouring into our country. We have no idea. I had the strongest border in the history of our country, and I built almost 500 miles of wall. You know, they like to say, oh, was it less? No, I built 500 miles. In fact, if you check with the authorities on the border, we built almost 500 miles of wall. And I had another 200 that I was going to build. You know, it's like water, it seeks. And we're going to build another 200. We built it. It was all set to go. All they had to do was install it. It would have taken 3 weeks. And that's when I found out. I said, I think these people actually want open borders. The first thing I would do would be I would seal up the border good and tight, except for people that want to come in legally.
Do you think we're moving towards civil war?
There's tremendous passion and there's tremendous love.
Passion.
You know, January 6th was a very interesting day because they don't report it properly. I believe it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken before. And you know some of the crowds I've spoken before. And like July 4th on the mall, I think they had 1 million people there. But I think that the biggest crowd I've ever spoken before was on January 6th. And people that were in that crowd, a very, very small group of people. And we said patriotically and peacefully and patriotically, right? Nobody ever says that. Go peacefully and patriotically. But people that were in that crowd that day, very small group of people went down there. And then there are a lot of scenarios that we can talk about. But people in that crowd said it was the most beautiful day they've ever experienced. There was love in that crowd. There was love and unity. I have never seen such spirit and such passion and such love. And I've also never seen simultaneously and from the same people such hatred of what they've done to our country.
So do you think it's possible that there's open conflict? We seem to be moving towards something.
I don't know because I don't know what it, you know, I can say this.
Come on, Tucker.
There's a level of passion that I've never seen. There's a level of hatred
Trying to get him
that I've never seen. And that's probably a bad combination.
Donald Trump, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Thank you.
That is a bad combination.
Bad combination. Thank you.
But do you see a civil war coming? Like, bro.
Like, Fred harder. Like, he might as well be hiding behind that frog emoji on
Read the room, brother. Read the room. I don't know. I that interview to me is very somber. It's not, I don't know. Well, I think that Trump is just worried. I mean, and by the way, that wasn't today. That was pre-recorded. That was like recorded like 2 weeks ago or something like that. And I know that because the day that Tucker was at Bedminster in New Jersey, some girl that I know that I follow, she posted a picture with Tucker. So of course, you know, our schizophrenic side was like, oh, I recognize this place. Like, they, you know, is Tucker. And this was before they announced that they were going to have the interview. So this is pre-recorded from a few weeks ago. But anyways, that was very somber and calm compared to.
I would say that he seemed down. I would say he
seemed down. Yeah.
I would say he felt composed, and I mean, with good reason, guys. You know?
I mean, he's worried. He's worried. They want to kill this guy. I mean, I'm being honest.
Well, you see the answer because Tucker asked him, "Do you think him?" And then that's when he's responded, like, "I think the people understand what's going on." And then he discusses how, you know, your support is supposed to go down.
Mm-hmm.
You're indicted, not up, and make, like, that was his response to Tucker asking if he thinks that they're going to unalive him. So I think that it is a somber interview because the reality that we're in is pretty somber. There's there was supposed to be a certain sacredness that came with the office of president, you know, a certain integrity that you were supposed to maintain with a political opponent.
Yeah, we also live in an insane, unhinged reality, right? That we live under occupation, which goes back to which goes back to what we've said. Certain characters, like the guys at Fresh and Fit, people like Pearl, who, and we only bring these people up because some of their content crosses over with the conservative side of things. They don't understand that they live under a dictatorship. So when they get censored online, when YouTube strikes down their channel, when they get articles written by Media Matters, who's owned or funded by George Soros, they're like, how could this be? Like, we have no idea why this is happening. And it's like, well, if you only understood something as simple as you live under an illegal occupation and you're not free, and freedom of speech doesn't come without freedom of consequences, and your Second Amendment right is restricted through red flag laws and other laws, and you don't have a Fourth Amendment right because that was taken away through the Patriot Act. And I can go on and on and on how our Constitution is completely bullshit. You know, you will be shocked when you're demonetized or censored or targeted because you're not living in reality. And I think most people are not living in reality. And it's like I was telling my friend on the phone last week, I said, when you think of freedom, you think, can I wear certain clothes without, oh, my light is done. Well, that's it. My light is done. Can you wear certain clothes without like being arrested? Sure. So maybe you would consider that as freedom. Can you like still own a gun in most states? Sure. So can you do porn if you wanted to? Sure. There's certain definitions of freedom that people hold over versus what we know it's freedom, right? So today, a really scary image that Tim Pool talked about was the fact that about 10 or 8 or 10 people that got their mugshots taken today, including Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis, are all lawyers. Like, they're arresting lawyers. Do you know the fear that this puts in lawyers' heads? Like, they're making an example out of lawyers. Yeah. They have already disbarred Trump lawyers in California and New York, and now they're arresting them in Georgia and setting their bail bond up to $200,000. 180 or 50 was for Rudy Giuliani. So this is where we are in this is the state of our liberal democracy, where lawyers are no longer going to want to do the right thing. And let me tell you guys something from personal experience. When I was trying to look for a civil rights lawyer to take the case against Miami-Dade for the unconstitutional mask mandates, actually everybody was turning me down. And the reason why they were turning me down wasn't necessarily because they thought it was bullshit or because they believed in the mask themselves. A lot of it was because they were scared of the backlash of what's happening. Because there are some lawyers that got in trouble, or they got complaints. People filed complaints against them for trying to do the right thing. And they make an example out of you. And this is actually what's going on. A lot of it is more to make an example out of you. Again, I'm not going to go over it. We're not going to go over this. But if you do read the indictment, which is 96 pages long, you're going to see how a lot of it is just trying to criminalize freedom of speech. And that's that. So imagine.
What a time. What a time. We can't watch the debate because it's my understanding that Fox actually made an announcement that they weren't going to allow, they were going to place a copyright infringement on any clip that was longer than 3 minutes.
Right.
For the
why are they doing that?
Because they want to protect their little golden calf. I would assume DeSantis, that we know historically. And I mean, I don't want to talk prematurely because I don't know how he performed in this debate, but we are talking about historically. He's never been recognized for being strong at debating. So I don't know. Can they possibly be trying to protect him getting owned, the ability to stop things from going viral, maybe as a way of forcing people to watch, because Trump was going to have this Tucker interview at the same time, so it forces live coverage versus somebody watching later on. I'm not entirely.
I'm gonna address this really quick. There's no way that Fresh and Fit can sue YouTube, because a lot of these companies have a special clause in their legal terms, if you want to call it, where they reserve the right to privacy, and they can actually cancel your account if they feel like it without telling you. The reason why I know this is because I've gone back and forth with Facebook for accounts that we've lost, right? And they don't even have to tell you they don't even have to give you an explanation. And it's actually completely legal because they are a private company. In the event of Fresh and Fit, they're not kicked off the platform.
Not yet.
They're just simply demonetized. I found out today through another creator that they've actually been kicked out of the partner program before. They were demonetized for 7 days. So they have already gotten a slap in the wrist, right? So now they're demonetized for 30 or 60 days, I think, or 90 days. They can actually reapply in 90 days.
I thought that they were demonetized indefinitely.
No, they can reapply. I heard Myron say that I think like 90 days have to go by and they can reapply for the partner program. But again, this is like positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. They want to make sure that if they are going to be monetized again, they're going to have to tone it down. They're going to have to not fuck around with some of this new content that they were trying to go after to be edgy. And I'm not talking about the women stuff, the misogynistic. Myron did go on Sneako's podcast wearing a KKK hood and calling people the N-word with the hard R at the end. That sounds like riggers. So it's not on your platform, but it doesn't matter because that brand transcends over to yours.
Right.
And when you live in a very controlled state where the media has influence, all the media needs to do is write a bad article about you, making it seem like you are perpetrating whatever, misogynistic views, racist views, anti-Semitic, whatever they want to freaking say. Send it over to the media department, the PR department of YouTube, because they all talk to each other and say, hey, there's a problem with this podcast that's growing at a very fast pace. And there's a problem with who they're inviting. This shit takes, like, I mean, you guys saw the Twitter files, right? What was taking place within Twitter itself. And it was the FBI coordinating so many things to silence America. They were silencing doctors. They silenced doctors, right? They told us trust the science, trust doctors. And then when the doctor said something that wasn't going along with the lunacy of COVID, then those doctors were also completely banned off the app. Now, the problem with Rumble getting, for anybody, not just Fresh and Fit, for the problem with Rumble is that at any given point, if it becomes problematic based on the content that they allowed, they could easily be taken off the Apple Store. They could easily be taken off the Google Play Store, which is what happened with Parler. I don't know if you guys remember, right after January 6th, Parler came off the app. There was no Parler allowed on the Apple Store for a very, very long time because they said that was the app that was used by Oath Keepers and Proud Boys and 3%ers to allegedly like organize the January 6th fake insurrection. So this isn't like the regime will find a way to punish us regardless of what we use or not use, right? So we'll see how long Rumble is going to last on the Apple Store. And I don't say this for Fresh and Fit. These are conversations that Bella and I have on the side privately when we're talking about our day-to-day stuff, that based on what we've known, we've been punished already by these people plenty of times. So it's a matter of knowing your enemy and how they operate versus just like cheering on the censorship of whoever, Laura Loomer, Fresh and Fit, Pearl, or whoever comes next. We know because we've been censored. So, yeah.
Right. They'll make money. They'll be fine on Rumble. There's a lot of people making money on Rumble. They'll be fine on Rumble. They've still got their following. They can still move their people over. They've got a very loyal cult type following that's going to follow them on any platform in order to donations.
They have locals and stuff, I think, too, that you can sign up for.
They're also right. So like now they're doing memberships as opposed to just like their super chats. And another thing is that that's a completely different. I know a lot of people that are on Rumble and won't come to YouTube. There's a lot of people that are on Rumble that were already canceled. It's an audience that they're going to resonate with. So they're going to grow on Rumble. Like the audience is there for them to grow. The audience is definitely there for them to grow there. I mean, it goes back to what you're saying. The oligarchy can take away Rumble from us at any given minute, but for right now, it's still there. And
but I don't think that Rumble monetizes. They don't have the ability to monetize.
Of course they do. They have the same monetization program as YouTube does. They pay you per views. They have ad space, and they've got super chats and everything that they have here. So they're still going to be able to monetize.
Interesting.
They're still going to be able to monetize. Their thing right now is that they have to build up in order to be at the same level where they were on YouTube, because they've got their 1 million followers on YouTube, not on Rumble.
So it's not about the server. It's about just plugging you out of the Apple Store altogether.
On the app, people aren't going to be able to download.
Right. Then you would have to go on like rumble.com and able to access the videos. So it was the same thing that happened with Parler. When they removed Parler off the Apple Store, you could still go to parler.com and be able to send a parley or whatever, or watch your feed, but you weren't able to see it on your phone because it's not on the Apple Store anymore. That's because for you to be part of the Apple Store and Google Play Store, there's certain terms of service that the website or the business itself has to have and or agree with Google Play Store and with the Apple Store. So
it's the same. Like people often complain that like the Truth Social will mark a lot of content like sensitive content and like put one of those like gray screens over it and make your post like undiscoverable. And the reason why they do that is because of the really strict FEC guidelines that they must abide by in order to remain on the Apple and Play Store.
Right. Even if they are completely banned, like this is not gonna happen. Like they're already rich. Myram's already rich. Fresh is driving around a Lambo in Miami that they own for real. They own like real estate. They have all their businesses. So that's not like, if in the event, let's say that they were to completely like have to get away from the podcast, they're going to be fine. They've already made so much money from the podcast and their investments that they're going to be okay. They could just literally live off their rental properties for the rest of their lives. I don't think Myron could go back to being part of the government now that he's probably in a government list.
Actually when he took down his channel, how he had to like really like they called him in and they're like, you have to make a choice between like this.
And they literally took his phone.
Yeah.
Did you see that they were like, give me your phone, and like they went through his phone to see if he was like freaking. Oh, that was the air. I'm in a hotel, so every noise I'm like, what was that?
We're locked.
Yeah, I'm locked, but like everything is just scary. I just want to give a shout out. We already gave a shout out to Shuda. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Kenneth, as well. And Emery, she left already, kind of late. Let's see what he says. People on the right trying to cancel Candace Owens and Tucker for interviewing Andrew Tate. Yeah, I have seen that on Twitter. I think there's a lot of chatter against Candace. Well, a lot of people hate Candace in general. It's not just
like they were uninformed for the interview. And I don't think that you do such a high profile interview and not have all the information. They could have read through the case and had a general idea of what, at a minimum, know the charges. Tucker was just like, oh, well, you're not getting charged with human trafficking. And he's like, no, I'm not. And it's like, no, he is. So to me, I think that the problem with those interviews was that it came from an apologetic point of view, as opposed to an truly, because there's the common ground of the being attacked by the Matrix and being canceled and so on and so forth and being public enemy #1, which I'm sure it's something that, you know, both Candace and
But I don't think they're trying to cancel them. I just think they're giving them shit. Like, I haven't seen anybody like, let's petition to get Tucker out, or like, you know, Ben Shapiro should like fire Candace Owens. So I don't necessarily, I'm just talking about Joey. I think they get a lot of backlash, and I think there's been a lot of questions surrounding all the interviews, but I don't think they're trying to cancel them per se.
No, that's not what I meant though. I meant that there's a common ground.
No, I'm sorry. I was answering to Joey because he sent another one. No, I wasn't talking about you. Yeah. Sorry. What were you saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, the right really is just as bad as with the cancel culture as the left. I'd say they're worst, actually.
No, yeah, they're pretty bad. But in this event, I think it's just more like they don't like Andrew Tate, and they're gonna even giving them shit. And who is Rules of Radicals?
Alinsky. Who are they talking about though? How they operate is straight from Rules for Radicals on Saul Alinsky. But who are they referring to? The left? The right? Who are you referring to, William? But yeah, I guess you could definitely say that the right acts like that as well. Because
a fact.
Being on both sides of it, they do very often can incorporate a lot of the same tactics as Antifa does.
Yep.
We've seen it.
We have seen it. I'm getting ready I'm tired, so I want to go to sleep soon. And we have been going for a while. Tomorrow, we are not going to have a show for those of you who watch us because I'm in St. Louis, but I will be updating you guys. Wait, are you an hour behind? I'm an hour behind, right?
You're an hour or 2 hours behind.
What time is it in Miami?
1. About to be 1.
Okay, so I'm an hour behind. So about to be 12 here. So tomorrow I'm going to be on the Andy Frisella podcast, 2:00 my time, 3:00 Miami. I will post it on my Instagram story. So we don't have a show tomorrow. And the next week we got something really bigger than we expected. Shuda, you're going to be in shock. We can't tell anybody. We're not going to tell anybody.
You know how these haters be doing the minute that they find out we're going to do something, then they're all like,
next week is going to be very, very interesting. It's going to be crazy. Next week is going to be crazy. So yeah, we do have interviews planned, and we're going to log off. This was interesting, different than what we usually do. But we'll be back next week. Maybe we should
be live next week on Tuesday to kind of make up for the fact that we're not going to be live next Thursday.
Oh, Shuda, trust me, next week is going to be lit because it was already going to be big for us. But today, when we got confirmation of who else is joining what we're doing, it just became that much bigger. So yeah, we will see you guys next week. Thank you for coming. I know it was late, last minute, but we appreciate you per usual. So we'll see you next week.
Thank you guys for joining in. See you guys next week.